This podcast is brought to you by Stevie Wicks and by Vizard.ai.
The Final Frontier podcast. These are the voyages of Jake Boger and Justin Spur. Our weekly mission, to explore memories of Star Trek's strange new worlds, to recall the search for new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has had the spare time to go before.
I get that reference. I've watched that Dark Side of the Ring. I get that reference.
All right, well, welcome everyone to the Final Frontier. As you probably inferred from that little exchange. Yeah, that inferred would be right, not imply. I'm implying you're inferring. That's right.
You're,
So
yeah.
what you may have inferred from that is we're talking about Arena. We're talking about the Gorn episode.
Yeah. So, okay, to start off with, I can just get all my notes on the Paramount description all out of the way now, which are all relating to the Gorn, which is number one, I get that reference. Number two, this description implies that there's a bunch of Kirk Fu coming.
Oh, this is where the Kirk Fu poster came from.
Oh my god! And then will this contain the iconic scene of Kirk fighting the Gorn? Which, okay, this, I guess I'll just say this up top. This is how you know this episode is iconic. Is me as the Star Trek novice. I've seen this scene. The scene. I know this bit. I know this bit. I recognize this bit.
Well, the thing is, like, this scene may be one of the most referenced and or parodied in science fiction, period. Because, like, off the top of my head, Futurama made fun of it. The Big Bang Theory made fun. Star Trek makes fun of it. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. I was
just William Shatner did a commercial when he was in his 50s where he's fighting a Gorn in somebody's living room.
My thing with I don't want to jump the gun on the Gorn fight because I've got so much to say about the Gorn
we're basically going to speed run through the episode and then spend like an hour and a half talking about the Gorn fight,
breaking down the Gorn fight moment by moment, because I have a lot of questions about this episode.
Well, we are, like I said, we're talking about the episode Arena. This episode takes place between star dates 3045.6 and 3046.2. The in-universe date, is 2266, and the original air date was January 19th, 1967. This episode was written by Gene L. Kuhn, whose name you've probably seen in the credits, because I don't think he was the showrunner yet, but he becomes the showrunner. He would be by now. He's the showrunner for Star Trek from the middle of season 1 to the middle of season 2. And this episode is directed by Joseph Pevney. This is such an interesting episode of Star Trek because there's so many like really cool behind the scenes facts. Like, for example, this was written on very short notice when basically everyone on the writing staff failed to produce scripts on time. So Gene L. Kuhn basically said, "Hold my beer." He volunteered to write a script. He left at 6 p.m. on a Friday and returned Monday morning with the first draft of the script done.
I mean, this script is not complicated. It's not a complicated script. There's not a ton
it's not
happening
bad
plot-wise.
Though. It's really not bad.
It's not bad though. No, it's not. It's not bad. This is a very good episode. I'm not ready to declare it my favorite, but it's definitely gonna be in my top. There. I'd like to, at the end of this each season, do like a top 5 of our favorites of the season.
Oh, we absolutely will. For our fans, those end of season special episodes are going to be live streams, so you'll be able to participate.
This is definitely top 5 for sure.
It's up there. It's just so much fun.
It's so much fun.
It's not goofy. So much fun. It's kind of goofy fun, but this episode's actually way better than I remember it being when I was a kid. Because when I watched it the first time, it was all about the Gorn. And don't get me wrong, the Gorn is glorious. Love the Gorn.
Gorn is good.
But there's
some stuff
there's some depth in
pre-Gorn.
here. Yeah,
There's some stuff pre-Gorn that's really good that I want to talk about before we. Well, it's not pre-Gorn because Gorn is obviously always there in spirit, but I mean, like, it's before the Gorn shows up physically.
at least before we see the Gorn.
Yeah, exactly.
It's implied Gorn
Yeah,
up to a
exactly.
certain point. But I do want to touch a little bit more on the script because it's interesting here. So, based on what I understand, is Gene Elkoon. It was not intentional, but Desilu's research department realized as the episode was in production that Gene Elkoon's screenplay strongly resembled a novella of the same name by an author named Frederick Brown. In order to kind of like sort of head this off, because Kuhn apparently claimed up and down that it was not intentional, they got Brown on the phone and he agreed to a writer's fee and an official credit for his story being used as a sort of template for this script, which was good practice because even if it's not intentional, it's
I
it's
always,
good.
if I homage anything, like I watch so much pop culture that I'm bound to reference something at some point. I always say, if I didn't come up with it, I always give credit because you don't want to get caught in that position of being like, no.
So I read a synopsis. I actually kind of want to read the short story now because it sounds quite good, but it is called Arena and it's very similar, but it's not. See, I believe that it was somewhat coincidental because I mean, but Enemy Mine is basically just a movie version of this episode, kind of taken further.
There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a phenomenon there. If you've ever watched Louis, I believe there's a with Dane Cook where he confronts Dane Cook and he's like, I know that you didn't intentionally steal my bit, but like maybe you heard it or you you just absorbed it subconsciously and your subconscious thinks it came up.
Yes,
with
that is a thing.
Sometimes parallel thought does happen. It's a weird phenomenon. It does happen.
One of my teachers in school had what he called the theory of simultaneous thought, and basically what he attributed it for entrepreneurship. But basically what he said is, if you ever have a good idea, you better get on it because completely unrelated to you, somebody else is coming up with the exact same idea.
Exactly.
You know,
will certainly.
That's demonstrably true because I've had several ideas, but I lacked the engineering necessary or the funding necessary. And then sure enough, within a couple of years, it was a thing.
My ideas are so out there that I've never seen anyone come up with them, but I'm always worried that they will. Like my big idea, like if I had an insane amount of money that I would do. You know, where you're like, why do I recognize that voice?
The only thing I could see is if you did in-app advertising, that would work, but I don't think people are going to pay for that. Although people pay for weird stuff in the app stores. So
yeah, free though. I mean, to be fair though, what Google can do now.
Well, our adventure begins when the USS Enterprise arrives at the Cestus 3 outpost by invitation of its commanding officer. Right out of the gate, I knew this episode was going to be fun because it starts with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy having a moment, and Spock calls McCoy. Basically, Spock calls McCoy a foodie, but the word he uses is kind of inappropriate because I had a feeling I knew what it meant, and I was right, but I looked it up anyway. He calls him a sensualist.
Yes, I have a note about that. What the fuck is this? Jake's gonna Google this for me.
A sensualist is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody that heavily prioritizes pleasure. However, it normally refers to sexual pleasure, but Spock's usage is not incorrect, nor is it inappropriate for Bones, because as we saw in Shore Leave, Bones gets boners too.
Bones is real thirsty. He gets real thirsty. He likes to drink. He likes to go to drink every once in a while. He likes to be real thirsty.
He likes to play doctor.
He does. So I have a note about that interaction.
And he plays one on TV.
Yeah. Okay. He sets a good table. Felt like an innuendo. Like just the way they were all looking. He's like, oh, he sets a good.
That's you know what.
Chef.
I didn't click that. So here's my thing. I took it very literally because it's like, well, you are on a starship, so the food you're eating is probably, reconstituted. McCoy even says that.
But it was just the way they all looked at each other like, this feels like a sex thing.
He sets a good table. I wonder if he brought his personal chef along with him to Cestus 3. Probably. Rank hath its privileges.
It does. Do you think they were getting invited down for like a group thing?
Well, here's what I will say.
Like an intergalactic key party?
The Enterprise doesn't seem like they're above partying together based solely on previous episode where they shore leave, where they all looked like they all participated in a big group activity.
Well, and then not just that, we know that something went down on the science lab on Christmas.
Something, and they all know about it. Everyone knows about it.
Kirk seems to think it's a secret, but clearly everybody knows about it.
Clearly
But
not.
but the other note I had is that Spock smells that BS.
He absolutely does.
Because he kind of gave me vibes of like, why are we here?
Right? Why are we doing this?
This seems like a tremendous waste of time.
Going into them going down to the planet, cinematography. Got to mention the cinematography, that up shot. And for whatever reason, when they get a shot of a big group of the crew all together, it always looks like, I don't want to say silly, but like strange. I don't know what it is. I just, the way they shoot it, it's always like these characters look funny when they're all standing together. You have that moment of like, not breaking the fourth wall, but like you realize you're watching a silly 1960s science fiction show. You're like, yeah,
yeah. The shot just feels like it's like, oh, this is TV.
Right? Yeah.
But another fun note, though, there's a bit of foreshadowing with Cestus 3. So that's the colony name. So a cestus was, I should say, a cestus was a Roman boxing glove that was fitted with deadly weapons such as spikes and used by gladiators in the arena.
Is that what that was called? Huh. I didn't. I remember that from. I'm pretty sure that shows up in Gladiator, in the movie Gladiator. I think. Does it not?
Maybe not the first one. Did you watch Gladiator 2? Because I haven't yet.
I have not seen Gladiator 2, no.
So maybe. No, he's not using a cestus. He's using his helmet.
Oh, okay. Then I might be thinking of some. Okay, no, maybe there's a real quick aside. There's a really fun Gladiator game for the PSP that I bought for like $5 that I like just sunk like 100 hours into. That it was just super fun. And I'm pretty sure that was one of the weapons.
Yeah, I remember now. This is a real aside, but it kind of tracks. You sent me another medieval MMA video.
Yeah.
That one was gnarly.
That was really cool. That was so funny. Jordan, my co-host on Spur of the Moment, he sent it to me completely unprompted. Like I was like, it's so funny. We literally talked about this yesterday.
He's like, look at this crazy.
Yeah,
look at this crazy stuff.
It's nuts.
But anyway, after beaming down to the surface, the crew find the outpost obliterated. The crew manages to find one survivor who says the base came under heavy bombardment from an unknown enemy. The landing party find themselves under fire from nearby, with 2 of the security team killed in the initial volley. So before we get to, because we did it. We got another one. We got him.
We got him, folks.
But before we get there was a kind of a funny moment for me where when Kirk tells him to split up, but he looks at the red shirt and he says, "Stay with me." I was just like, that guy's thinking, "Oh, thank God."
I just went. I wrote down his name because I wanted to make sure I enjoyed this moment of O'Hurley's wearing a very red shirt. Will he live? Because we've been teased with some red shirts in earlier episodes where they managed to survive.
He gets a glorious out. He does.
Which okay. So I got O'Hurley's wearing a very red shirt. Will he live? And then two notes later, will he be our first red shirt death in a while? What do we? He will not. He's our first red shirt death in a while. And then what do we say when we receive a thing we want? About time!
Captain, I see something!
That is the Futurama reference for you.
It's he should have stayed closer to Captain.
You should have stayed closer to the captain.
You're safe when you're around Kirk.
Apparently not.
Well, I was going to say that's demonstrably untrue.
Have we gotten to the point where Kirk was doing the captain's log while they're walking along yet?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because when we get there, I have a complaint about it.
Well, I'm honestly not sure, but so my other note, actually, when is this before they were under attack, or is this when he's using the recording device that you're talking about?
It's when they're walking along. You see them walking through the desert, and he's going captain's log, and it shows Kirk not speaking, but he's talking in the present tense in the captain's log.
Oh yeah, that's after we're introduced to the Gorn, but I know the moment you're talking about.
I didn't like that. Yeah, it was weird because I'm like, how are you talking about this in the moment when I can see you're not recording it. I didn't like
Yeah.
the usage. It kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's actually a good point. But another fun note is because it was the 1960s, so William Shatner currently suffers from tinnitus due to an improperly timed special effects explosion on the set of this episode.
Yeah,
Both
that doesn't
he,
surprise me.
but also both Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelly reportedly suffered from tinnitus as well during the remainder of their lives from this episode. So those explosions you're hearing,
Yeah. Oh,
um,
I got notes. I was like, those are some legit pyrotechnics. Like they look like legit explosions,
now
which
the thing
apparently
is
they
the
were.
I was just gonna say the explosions you're hearing probably were added in post production, but those are real explosions.
Oh, for sure. They look very real. Like they're impressively, expensively real. Like I
Yeah.
was impressed. When I wrote these notes about the pyrotechnics, I'm like, Jake's gonna have some fun behind the scenes facts about this because he's
Well, and
gotta. Because
there's
I'm
one where it
fascinated.
I've got to believe. Well, then again, it was 1967, but the way it shot, it legitimately looks like it goes off right next to William Shatner.
There's a couple of shots in this episode that look unsafe. Like just
That I think that's
straight
the
up.
one. I think that's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I could believe it. Like there's quite a few. I've got a note on a particular stunt later where I'm like, this looks unsafe. Like, because once again, we talk about this almost every episode, but there's that it's the 1960s. Their idea of safety on sets is decidedly different than ours.
Yeah,
So, like,
theirs is we're not aiming the explosion at you, so
pretty much, yeah, just duck that way and hope for the best. It's kind of like back
hope
then.
hope they put it where they said they put it.
Do you trust the special effects guy? It's just like it's entirely dependent on how safe you'll be. Does Jim the special effects guy like you, or is he going to set it off at 30 like 2 to 3 seconds early?
And
Is the
that's when
question.
Shatner looks at Leonard and goes, "I'm pretty sure I flirted with his wife at the Christmas party."
I definitely made out with his sister once.
You better hope he doesn't like his sister. Anyway, but also the Enterprise is under attack from an unknown vessel, preventing the crew from beaming up the landing party. On the surface, Kirk finds a grenade launcher from the outpost stores and uses it to scatter the alien
Oh,
forces.
okay. I must have missed when he picked up the grenade launcher because I just one of my notes is where did he get the grenade launcher? I clearly missed that moment because I was like, where
They
did he
do
get that grenade launcher?
they do show it, and I have a it's not really a complaint, more of a question, but if I'm right, it is a complaint. I'm pretty sure that's a mortar, not a grenade launcher.
I
I'm pretty sure
mean,
those are two different things.
all right, well, okay, you would know better than I, but is a mortar not just an old timey time medieval version of a grenade launcher
No.
in concept? No, okay, fair enough. I
Well,
don't
I
know enough
mean,
about
I think it depends upon but so my understanding, and again, I'm not an expert. So if you served in the military, especially if you were a mortarman, let me know. It's my understanding that a grenade and a mortar, they're different munitions and they have different explosions. So
Oh, do
well,
we?
and here's another thing. So that explosion, because my note actually said, "Holy those grenades." It's my understanding that mortar explosions are larger than a grenade explosion, which
Do
would
we
make
still
sense.
do? This is me showing my ignorance. Do mortars still exist?
Yes.
Oh, okay. See, my brain, they're like a medieval weapon. I didn't think that we still
Oh
had
no,
them.
no. Mortars are still. In fact, I knew people
Oh,
that worked in mortar
okay.
crews in the military. So
I think that's my Canadian showing there.
yeah, shoot. You know what? If I'd been smart, I would have invited him on because he could have talked about because he was a mortarman. That was his job. He was
Oh yeah, I mean, now that you said that, yeah, you're right because I know that I know
well,
what
I
a
know the
mortar
firing. I
looks
know
like.
the
Yeah,
firing device is certainly a mortar. That's the
yeah, for
thing. But
sure.
I'm wondering if it's the munition though. That's my question. Is it the munitions you're
I
using or
mean,
is it the firing mechanism you're using?
yeah, because they're, I mean, they're. But I don't know. To be fair, I don't know what mortars look like. The ammunition. I know what a grenade looks like,
I'm not sure
but
I
it,
know
it
what
looks.
modern. I think they still look like they're sort of like little rockets, but I know what like a World War II era mortar looks like, but I'm not sure about
So
modern munitions.
are a mortar and a cannonball two different things?
Oh yeah, way different.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, this is me. I'm learning stuff today. Not just
Well,
we learned stuff on the Final Frontier, not just about Star Trek.
all kinds of stuff. But there's also a really funny moment where my note just says, "Why does Kirk explain to Spock why he orders the Enterprise not to lower its shields?"
Yeah.
It's,
There's a lot of Kirk
it's
justifying himself.
it's like this really like it's clearly for audience exposition, but
Oh, for sure.
it makes sense on its face because Kirk literally says, "Don't," like it just doesn't make sense in the moment because I'm paraphrasing, but Kirk is talking to the Enterprise and because Sulu says repeatedly, he's like, we can lower screens," and he says, "No, don't lower those screens." And we're like, "Oh, because if they lower the screens, obviously they'll be susceptible to attack, and they can't use the
Yeah.
transporter if the screen is up." Got it. And then he hangs up with the Enterprise and he looks at Spock and he says, "They can't lower the shields because if they do, they'll be vulnerable to phaser attack." And we're like,
Yeah, we know that.
we know, so certainly Spock knows
Right?
as the
Spock's
first
not stupid.
officer of the Enterprise.
So this is a question I had for later, but I might as well ask it now because this is the big battle sequence. Is the implication that there's more than one Gorn, or is that it's just the one Gorn? Because how is he fighting the Enterprise in space and bombing the shit out of them at the same time if it's only
No,
one Gorn?
there's a Gorn landing party that is wrecking the base, and then the Gorn that Kirk faces is the captain of the Gorn ship.
Oh, that he was chasing after.
Yep.
But the other Gorn off.
Yeah, they left.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I was having trouble reconciling that.
Well, either that or they exploded. I don't. They may have
Exploded?
exploded. Yeah, they may have
It
just
may
exploded.
it's possible they exploded.
It's possible they exploded. Because that's a really big blast. I believe there would be nothing left.
That is true. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, maybe Kirk killed them all when he also yeah, Spock once again being like the value of human, although we discussed that he probably wouldn't have sacrificed a person in the last episode. Sure seemed like he was willing to.
No, but they sure get over those fatalities real fast.
Well, that's a note I have where it's like this is after the red shirt die. Wait, there's more. I missed the second guy because I was so fixated on the red shirt die.
We don't see him die. He's reported to have died off screen.
Oh, okay. I just said it feels a little weird and cold that no one has mentioned that one guy died earlier. No one mentions the red shirt. They don't they
No.
mention, and it is especially weird because they mention him by name.
Yeah.
So they have a personal relationship with this guy. Nobody gives that he's now dead.
No, because he's a red shirt and he doesn't matter. The alien ship recovers its crew from. Oh, well, the synopsis says that the ship recovers, even though I don't think that's accurate because we never actually see it and it's not alluded to on screen. But so I'm just gonna I'm gonna edit the synopsis. The alien ship begins to retreat. The landing party is beamed back aboard the Enterprise, and then they give chase.
So okay, so we didn't talk about there's some duck. I just got a note that just says duck and weave.
Like it's and I don't really want to make fun of this just because again I wasn't there doing the stunts, but they do seem to be moving in a very unintelligent way.
I mean, Kirk roll to a Kirk crawl. This episode has everything.
Well, and then there's Kirk Fu later, but it just seems like the way I love. There's a moment that shouldn't be funny, but it kind of is when Kirk's like, "I'll get closer," and then he immediately has to stop because of the mortars or bombs going off.
Yeah, it's funny when you can see staging, where you can see you
Yeah.
can see the choreography, or he does a dive, which I thought was his land. That's legit dive. I just had the note that says the stunt work in this scene is really good, and then holy a rare Spock roll.
That did happen, and then so the thing that makes this not super
Also-
comedic for me is you have to remember that they did all these things more than once.
Oh, for sure. My thing is, what I found it was interesting is Leonard Nimoy's roles not as good as William Shatner's roles.
No.
His roles they did not look as comfortable. I don't know if it's because, and the thing I've learned from this show that I never appreciated until I think this episode and man, Leonard Nimoy is a tall guy and he just looks
really
uncomfortable
is.
doing the stunts. Would they have had stunt guys on this show? Is this the kind of show that would have had stunt guys to do some of those stunts for them?
Yes, but not to the same degree as we would now, because there are some times where William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and all them would do stunts, depending on the shot.
I mean, Shatner. Oh, I mean, they get so many close-ups of him doing. It's one of those things that it sounds so egotistical. But once you make a movie, even on a basic level, you understand what goes into blocking shots, and there's or close-ups or medium wides or all that stuff, or to get coverage. So you're like, if they've got a close-up of him doing a role, he had to do that role.
Oh yeah, and there's actually a fun fact coming up where if you're the eagle-eyed among you would notice a change in William Shatner's footwear, and that's because he was actually the one running around in the mountains in Southern California. And there, I'll touch on it later, but for those of you that notice, you know what I'm talking about. He's wearing different shoes, and there's a reason. But
I'm
so some fun
surprised.
facts. So Sean Kenny, who played Helmsman DePaul in this episode, is the same actor that played the disfigured Captain Pike in The Menagerie.
Oh,
His resemblance to Jeffrey Hunter, who played the original Captain Pike, is plain to see in this
yeah.
episode.
That well, I mean, yeah, but he was the guy working with Sulu, right?
Sulu, yes.
I
Yep.
think I was just so taken by Sulu. Sulu, man, he also is given a tour to his like taking charge and being like his combat stuff in space was just so good, just so good.
Sulu is a competent commander, and that I think may have been the first seeds of what would come because Sulu,
Yeah.
for those who don't know, Sulu goes on to captain his own ship, the
Well, they
Excelsior.
Spock. I think Spock says either Spock or McCoy says that exactly what you just said. That Sulu is a very talented helmsman. He knows exactly what he's doing. Shut up and stop worrying. Like let Sulu, but put this in Sulu's capable hands. He can handle it.
That's basically, and I think it was Spock, but I'd have to go back and watch. Okay, so this is the thing that doesn't really make sense in this episode, but it does play into the plot, so I guess I'll just read it. Kirk says the Gorn ship may indicate an invasion, but so my brain went crazy when Kirk said that because I'm like, but if it is an invasion, isn't this one single ship really inconsequential? And
Right?
like, if the Federation would be better served by the Enterprise communicating with Starfleet Command immediately and patrolling the area for more Gorn ship sightings until more, members of the fleet arrive, as opposed to giving chase to one ship into unknown space, which may very well end up a trap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a moment later on where I'm like, oh, this is definitely didn't turn out to be a trap so much, but I was like, this definitely feels like a trap. So yeah, for sure, I do get what
Yeah,
you're
well,
saying.
I mean, the thing of it is, so
It's got trap
I,
vibes
I,
for sure.
I guess that this really wouldn't qualify as a false flag operation, but there is a term for this. Um, it's been done throughout history all the time, where basically the aggressing party basically makes BS justification for military action. So that's not what happens in this case, or at least it's not outright
Yeah.
said. But let's say that the Gorn were actually looking for a provocation, like they were looking for a reason to make the Federation, provoke them. Well, attacking an outpost and making it look like, and then blaming it on a so-called invasion would be a really effective way to do that.
Yeah.
But the thing that always kind of gets me about that is, which again, I have the benefit of hindsight of knowing the history, but it's like, who's really buying that when they do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, so a good example would be like the Japanese invasion of Manchuria at the beginning of the Second World War, where it's
Yeah.
like, and we know this now that it was in fact, it was a trumped up, provocation, and they were like, okay, yeah, because we had a skirmish with, members of one, I don't even remember how would you call that? Because at that time there wasn't a central government in China. It was a bunch of warring factions, one faction. So because one faction allegedly attacked us, we're just going to take over this big chunk of China
It
and
make what
be okay with it.
well, I mean, the first space my brain goes to is like Pearl Harbor, where it was like the Americans were antagonizing the Japanese. Well, at least that's how they painted up here. They were antagonizing the Japanese
That's what they
to
said.
provoke the Japanese into doing a Pearl Harbor, so then the Americans would have an excuse to go into World War II.
Oh,
That's kind of
see,
that's
yeah, I don't. That's the thing. I'm not in that camp. I don't buy that because here's the thing: if the United States just wanted to go to war, um, they they would have. Like they didn't need permission.
fair.
Right. The thing of it is, though, the Japanese, at the time, the Japanese government, I have to be careful because whenever you say the Japanese, somebody can make the argument that you're talking about Japan of today. I am not. I'm talking
Different.
about, I'm talking about the Japanese government of, 1941
The
at that time.
imperialist government of
Yeah,
1941.
exactly. It's a different group of people.
Yeah,
That
very much
being
so.
said, though, the United States cut off oil to them because of their, invasion of Manchuria.
Yeah,
So this was not this was the thing. And Roosevelt, my understanding, because I didn't know the guy, but my understanding with Roosevelt was it's not so much that he wanted to go to war, which he did, but it was because he understood what was happening and what was going to happen, and he
Yeah.
felt that the sooner the United States got involved in the war, the shorter it would be. And there, you'll never know because it didn't happen, but there might have been some truth to that. Like, for example, if the United States had gotten involved, say, before the Germans took over, Paris, for example,
Hmm.
well, D-Day need not have happened for one, because
Yeah.
they would have been able to just bring troops into France, you know.
I mean, here's another case of it's very interesting because here's the international perspective on that. How they teach it in my school, Canadian school, is that it's just to be clear, it's different. It's very different than American school.
Sure.
But they teach us that post World War One, anti-war sentiment was very, very high. So the American people did not want to go to war. And so the American government needed to make the idea of going to war palatable, and getting attacked was the way. And I'm not saying this is true, but and getting attacked by the Japanese was very much a way to do that.
It was, and the thing of it is because the Japanese government also sort of felt that it was only a matter of time before the United States joined the war too, and Pearl Harbor was an attempt to knock out their Pacific fleet to delay their getting involved in the Pacific theater.
I mean, this is not a World War II podcast, but I will say I watched a really interesting video because I never really put this thought together, but the premise of the video is basically like the notion of the Japanese and the Nazis working together was very very rad. Like, no, it's something you wouldn't think of because the Japanese very much are antithetical to what they're not blonde hair, blue. Why would they work together? And I watched this really interesting video that was basically like, yeah, they really didn't. They were fighting two kind of separate wars and not really coordinating in a way that would allow them to win. And that was kind of sort of why they lost in the end.
Well, the thing of it is had both of those sides won, eventually they would have gone to war with each other.
Exactly.
Not so much for racial reasons, but it was going to happen. Just because when your goal is world domination, it's Highlander rules. There can be only one.
There can be only one.
But yeah, and the reason we're talking about all this is it comes into play later with the Gorn's reason for being there. But
yeah,
going back to the story, both ships enter an unexplored sector of space and shortly thereafter lose all propulsion power very mysteriously. The Enterprise is contacted by a species calling themselves the Metrons. The Metrons. The Metrons? Trons? Metro. The Enterprise is contacted by a species calling themselves the Metrons. They announce that they will pit the respective captains against each other in trial by combat to the death, with the ship of the losing captain to be destroyed and the other ship free to leave. Captain Kirk is suddenly transported to the surface of a rocky, barren asteroid. Note on that in a moment. Along with the captain of the other ship, who is of a reptilian species known as the Gorn.
Hell yeah. I just have a bunch of notes regarding the chase. Them chasing the Gorn. I think it was Spock was bringing up something about, I guess, the morality of what the Gorn, what the alien, they hadn't defined what they were yet, had done. I said they were pretty much actively trying to blow you up. They don't seem like they have good intentions. And I know Star Wars messes this up, but I couldn't remember in which way. Is parsec a measure of time or distance? Distance. So they're using parsec correctly in this
They
episode.
are using parsec correctly, yes.
Star Wars uses it incorrectly.
That is correct. Although I don't remember what they said, but somebody came up with a really convoluted way to prove that Han Solo was technically not wrong. I don't know how you could.
They do it in the Han Solo movie. They explain how I can't remember how, but there's an explanation for how it's actually distance and not time.
Well, I think isn't the sort of like cheat code to get out of it? Isn't the Kessel Run not a defined crack? Isn't it like I don't remember how they. It still doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. How many warp factors are there?
So there are actually 10, but by this point in Star Trek lore, it appears that their engines are capable of going up to 6 safely, and 7 is pushing it, and 8 is kind of like really pushing it.
That's what I figured. I said apparently it goes as high as 8. I said, oh yeah, so I have a note that says so they are space cops. Oh yeah, this feels like a trap, which we already talked about. Is sublight like the spaceship equivalent to putting it in park?
No, sublight just means they're traveling slower than the speed of light.
Gotcha. And then
Which,
yeah, you
okay,
were
so that's another thing. So, and again, it's because it's 1967. Yeah, it's because it's 1967. They later, so I'm not faulting the show for this now. They later explained that warp is not technically going fast. It's technically bending space time. So
gotcha.
it's not a wormhole, but so technically speaking, they couldn't physically be traveling faster than the speed of light
Yeah.
because if you do that, matter dematerializes. At least
Right.
that's my
Yeah.
understanding. For the physicists in the audience, if I'm wrong, please correct me because I'm not going to pretend like I'm a physicist. I'm basing this off of what I've heard other much smarter people say in videos and podcasts and one live presentation that I went to that one time. Basically, the way I understand it is somehow I'm going to butcher this. They create this field around the ship
Okay.
that is what is transported very, very quickly. So they open
Oh,
up a
okay.
yeah. So they open up a pocket in space time and are able
Gotcha. Okay.
to do that. Yeah. So I got it. This annoyed me when I was watching the show, but again, I'm not an astrophysicist. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if it's got an atmosphere, it's not an asteroid. Turns out I was correct. By definition, this is not an asteroid. As asteroids lack the necessary size and therefore gravity to hold on to gases. And I actually believe the Metron says planet, while Kirk twice refers to it as an asteroid incorrectly.
Interesting.
But here's why it's annoying. Kirk is the captain of a starship that
Right. He should
operates
know.
in space. The captain of a starship should know the difference between an asteroid and a planet, or even a
Right.
moon. I'd buy that it was a moon.
In terms of the oh my god, I'm blanking on the names. The energy beings. I said you're right. It's a yet another energy being, and the interaction between the energy being, which the name is escaping me again.
Metron.
It felt Metron. Thank you. It felt very condescending, like a
Oh,
parent
hugely,
lecturing.
hugely.
Yeah, lecturing a child. I was like, ooh, I don't like this. And
Oh,
also, this is absolutely the iconic Gorn fight scene.
it's absolutely. But here's a couple notes that'll make you laugh. The Gorn stick is bigger.
Why does everyone keep trying to hit Kirk with a stick?
Well, technically, Kirk grabs the stick first, and the Gorn's just like, my stick's bigger.
Okay, we got to talk about the Gorn costume, right?
Now, first, we got to talk about the tinfoil that was in the mountains.
I mean, I thought you were going to mention the spray paint that they tried to pretend was sulfur.
Well, there's that too. But just looking at the mountains, I'm like, so apparently these mountains are real. They exist. They're in
Yeah,
California.
yeah,
But I'm
absolutely.
like, so these don't look alien enough. We have to throw tinfoil on them.
It's funny. I had a few moments where I questioned, and then I remembered. This is really funny when we on spur of the moment we talked about Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I don't know if you've seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
I have
Jordan,
not.
oh, you have not. Okay, very speed run of the plot of that thing. It involves them getting killed, and the point where they get killed is the same place as the Gorn fight. And
Oh,
Jordan
nice.
referenced it. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's the same place where Kirk fought that Gorn once." I was like, "Oh, that's how I knew it was." Because otherwise, there was moments where I'm like, "This is looking very set like," but I knew that it was a real place.
So this is another fun fact. I don't, unless you look this up, you wouldn't know this because the costume. The Gorn is played by a very familiar face, very familiar body. I'm sorry. He's played by Ted Cassidy, who played Rook in What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Ah, no kidding. Yeah, that
That
makes
is.
sense because the Gorn is massive.
Ted Cassidy also did the voice of Baylock in the Corbomite maneuver, and as we
Huh.
established in the funniest episode we've done to date, he played Lurch in the Addams Family '60s TV series.
Yes, we did.
So the scene on the planet surface where the Gorn and Kirk have their epic battle is called the Vasquez Rocks, and they're in California. It's the same location that was used for the episode Shore Leave, Friday's Child, and several other Star Trek productions, even as late as Initiations in 1995.
Oh wow,
Which I
I really
believe
like
that
that spice.
I believe that's a TNG episode, is it not?
I mean, based upon the date, that would make sense.
Yeah, that would make sense. The area this is great, and I think this shows up on GPS. The area of Kirk's fight with the Gorn in front of the jagged rock face is known as Gorn Rock.
Of course, naturally,
Yes.
that makes
Also,
sense.
Another fun fact, in the 1970s, the Mego Toy Company, we've touched on them before, produced a Gorn action figure doll. However, unlike the TV character, the toy is dressed in the same costume used for a Klingon doll. Also, the head was the same one used for the Marvel Comics lizard doll made by the
Huh.
same company, except the Gorn head was molded brown to match the costume. So, in another example of the Mego Toy Company being like, oh, we already know exactly what this thing looks like. Nah, we're gonna
Nah.
do it ourselves. We're gonna do our
I
own thing.
mean, it's very peak Mego Toy Company.
Yeah, it's what they do. And then another fun fact: if you watch this on Paramount Plus with us, you will have seen that the Gorn, rather convincingly, I might add, blinks his eyes from time to time. Obviously, the original costume, this would not have been possible because it was a mask. This is not present in the original episode. The blinks were added in the digitally remastered versions of this episode, which I believe started with the DVD releases.
Interesting. I that didn't
I'm
even
gonna
notice that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It looked real, so that's impressive.
I mean, that's a thing you can look. I'm enough of a fan of the Muppets and Jim Henson where I'm like, you could do that with puppets. It's very possible.
Yeah, well, in the original, obviously they didn't. But here's my thing: I appreciated it, but I'm also kind of like, why?
I guess to make him look less like
I
a costume. I guess.
Yeah, because the eyes not blinking was what did that for
Made it
me.
made
Not
it
the
look
fact
like a
that
costume.
not the fact that when he talked his mouth doesn't move, but that's yeah, but
uh,
his eyes blink, it's got to be real.
yes, I love the Gorn. It is peak 1960s.
Okay, everybody, we're almost there. Kirk's about ready to face the Gorn, but I have a feeling that he would have had a much easier time of it had he had this sponsor.
Stevie Wicks is setting out to give you the greatest candle you've ever smelled, and they're specializing in hand-poured, all-natural soy wax candles. Many varieties, very many scents. These things are so good, and each Stevie Wicks candle comes with a scent-boosting tart right in the center, so you get a boost of scent as soon as you start burning your candle. What's really unique about Stevie Wicks, though, is not only can you get individual candles from them, but you can also sign up for their monthly subscription box. Once you subscribe, you'll receive a box every month full of candles and candle-related items, such as their 3-wick candle, single-wick candles, soy wax tarts, and also with every box you'll get a free gift. This could be anything from another candle-related item, semi-precious stone jewelry, could be any number of things, including exclusive candles not available anywhere else. And if you are a Stevie Wicks subscriber, every month where there is a major holiday, you will get holiday-themed candles, such as this Valentine's Day candle that you see here. So if you want to get the best candles you've ever had today, go on to steviewicks.com and place your order there, or sign up for your monthly subscription box.
I don't know that would have made Kirk's fight with the Gorn easier. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I don't think that beloved sponsor would have helped him very much.
But anyway, back to the story. The Metrons speak to Kirk, explaining that while neither captain has communication with his ship, each has been given a vocal recording device that will transmit their words to their ships. However, they are unaware that they also translate their words to the opposing captain as well. That seems kind of disingenuous.
Convenient. Oh, is that why the Gorn could all of a sudden speak to him? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I was just like, what is the additional necessity of having the rest of the crew stand there and not really say anything and watch what's happening on the screen? I didn't really understand the function of that.
It's so Spock.
Like
It's so
on a hat.
It's so yeah, it's so Spock can look really good at chemistry, even though I'll touch on that when we get there. But there's no way Spock could have known that was potassium nitrate, a white powder. It could have been any number of things.
It could have been anything. It just felt like it really could be anything.
Could have been sand for all he knows.
My thing was like when I think of one of the captain's log, Kirk is like the Metrons have told me this, and this. I'm like, when did they tell you this? Like you disappeared off the Enterprise, and then they're like, arm around you as you're teleporting to the planet. So Kirk, here's the deal. That thing called a Gorn. Okay. It's a lizard thing. It's gonna kill you. Cool. Here's a thing. Good luck, buddy. Like, when did this happen?
It's gonna eat your face.
Yeah, he's gonna murder you. We're gonna enjoy it. We've placed money on it. Fred's betting for you for some idiotic reason. Fred's a freaking idiot. Oh my god.
Turns out Fred won a lot of money.
I almost said it F word.
So that recording device the Metron supply Kirk with and the Gorn with is actually just a silver painted electric hair clipper without a guard on it.
Of course it is. That makes sense. Yeah.
Which actually, I kind of figured. I'm like, that just looks like hair clippers.
I'm like, it looks suitably science fiction-y.
It's good enough, man. It's good enough. I'm not hating on it. Kirk is told that the asteroid, the planet or moon. Kirk is told that the planet and or moon has numerous resources either captain can use to defeat the other. Aboard the Enterprise, the crew are allowed to watch Kirk's actions. So this is where the footwear change that I talked about comes into play. Because my note that I wrote down was, did Kirk's boots always have laces?
Oh,
Turns
interesting.
out they did not.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
This change is likely, and I had a feeling this was the case. This change was likely due for safety reasons, as William Shatner was running and climbing around those really steep rocks.
Well, yeah, well, that's why I was talking about safety, where I'm like, there's one shot where he's climbing up like a sheer cliff face, where I'm like, did they not have insurance like concerns? Because a lot
no,
of times,
they probably did have insurance, but the thing of it is like, and see, this is why it's probably a good thing that I'll never make it in Hollywood, because like I would totally do it. I wouldn't
I
be bothered by
mean,
it.
I've done a lot of things I shouldn't have done for film. But I'm just like, in today's day and age, they would never let Shatner do that. Like they'd be like, the insurance companies won't let us do this. Like there's no way. So just watching him climb that sheer like cliff face, I'm like, that looks dangerous.
That's why we don't tell them. And here's the thing. Just I know this is extremely anecdotal. All my work, well, I take that back. Most of my injuries have been from doing really mundane things.
That I don't disagree with.
Not like I've done some decidedly dangerous things and walked away with no problems.
The
I rolled
most
my ankle once by not even jumping, by like kind of hopping off of a curb.
the most dangerous thing I did for a movie was the director wanted me to flip backwards over this couch. I was sitting on the couch, I had to flip backwards, and I like onto like reasonably hard floor, and I was very concerned about breaking my neck. I was like, this feels dangerous.
They didn't even get cushions or anything.
I think at a certain point it was like couch cushions behind me, but I went right through them on one of the takes.
I can't talk because in my first ever internet show, Weekly Wrestling Wrap Up, which fun fact, we're actually going to be releasing them on our off weeks for Down the Middle. So if you like wrestling and don't subscribe already, stay tuned for that. There's a bit we did, and we did not tell him to do it this well. This is a long story. There's a bit where one of our friends is playing one of the interns, and there's a bit where he gets hit in the head with a pan off screen and then falls down a staircase.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Now, I told him, take it slow and I can speed it up and make it look a little bit more. No, he just rolls down the staircase with a very sickening thud, and you can see it on my face. There's an outtake we do in one of the episodes where we do gag reels and we show what happens after that. We all turn around and go, "Are you okay?" And he gets up. He's like, "I'm fine." No. Well, I'm glad, because you're not doing that again. Like,
right? There's one take. One take.
That's a one take.
Tick.
Yeah, that's a one take. Which fortunately was perfect, because I mean he just falls down the stairs.
That's funny.
Kirk attempts to communicate with the Gorn, but receives no response. The Gorn tracks Kirk down, and Kirk realizes he is outmatched physically and relies on his speed and agility to outrun the Gorn, which actually, I'm going to call out the synopsis, that actually happens when they first meet. It becomes very apparent that the Gorn is significantly stronger, but also slower than Kirk.
Okay, so all my notes are that costume is very difficult, clearly very difficult to see out of, which is probably why the choreography is what it is.
I thought the same thing. But kudos to Ted Cassidy, because Ted Cassidy is apparently very claustrophobic.
I mean, here's what I will say about the costume itself. I liked it. Other than the head, the body looks great. Like, I think the body looks very believable. It looks like it's real. It's that head, man. That head looks ridiculous. Other than that, it's a great costume. And yeah, it's very slow fight. Just an excruciatingly slow fight.
Really? I kind of like the head.
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of making it look like not corny, but I love it because it looks corny. Like I'm that's just how I work. Like I love it because it's peak 1960s. It looks 1960s.
Well, I just realized why it looks so weird because for some reason the lizard has compound eyes,
Yeah, I don't.
which is not a thing that normally.
I
No,
I, I
every reptile I'm aware of has like I mean different pupils, but um standard eyes. One of the four varieties on Earth other than compound.
I'm not sure. But I love a bad guy in a stupid. I grew up with Power Rangers. I love a bad guy in a stupid costume. I
Okay,
just
I'm this might be controversial. The Gorn costume is better than some of the ones that were on Power Rangers. I said it.
oh yeah. Yeah, I
I
mean,
said
yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't disagree. It's mobile. Like I think the reason why I
It
think if he could see
functions.
out of it, if what functions and like it's not cumbersome. Or
Yeah,
like
he can move. Yeah.
we've talked about Godzilla. Like there's a lot of Godzilla costumes where they clearly can't move, so the fights aren't really all. This is like he clearly can't see. Like it feels very much like they didn't test this out prior to the day of shooting. He put it on and they went, "Oh no, we can't see." Like it gives me that vibe. Like maybe they had a much more dynamic fight sequence planned out prior to this, and he's like, "I can't see what I'm doing."
I'm
And
okay with it though, because it does make, although the one thing that doesn't make sense is if it's a reptile, that means it's cold-blooded, and that means that it would be theoretically super slow if it were cold, but they're
right,
clearly in a place that's a desert, so
he'd be pretty fast. Like
He'd
lizards
he'd be
aren't.
he'd be pretty fast actually. Like
Yeah,
because I mean the best example I can think of is say like a crocodile or an alligator, which the I forget what Nile crocodiles can actually run very fast. Crocodiles and
uh,
alligators in general, they're actually very fast.
I think it's like. I don't want to say. I don't want to
I
misquote
think
this.
it's 35 miles an hour,
I was gonna say 30. It's something. It's
30 or
some like
35. They're really
surprise.
fast.
But also they won't because well, alligators certainly they tend to be very lazy creatures, so they typically won't, but they can if they want
Well,
to.
that crocodiles are more aggressive. That's why I referenced the Nile crocodile because
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
even
absolutely.
faster and they're even faster in the water.
My thing with that first fight is it's not so much that the Gorn is slow, it's that Kirk is also slow when he's fighting him. He's like,
That's
and
true.
and,
That's
and
true.
it only bothered me because a lot of the moves like he's doing like this, but he's doing it agonizingly slowly. And it bothered me because in previous episodes he was much faster when with his combat. So just again, it became obvious that it was very difficult to see out of the stupid costume.
Yeah, like Finnegan, he was going super lightning
Yes,
fast.
I would say that the Finnegan costume or the Finnegan fight was better than this in terms of an actual fight. But I
Oh,
like the Gorn
sure,
more.
sure, but it's a better fight, but it's not nearly as fun.
It's not nearly as fun. That I will agree with. Yeah, but
So the other note I have is, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That was a very conveniently placed rock.
right, right. All of the
It's just
rocks are
kind of there.
conveniently
But
placed.
here's the other thing. So I wasn't thinking about this initially, but later it came to me later, and it turns out I was right. So given obviously it's not a real rock, it's made out of, which is why William Shatner was able to do it. But he has to push it slightly uphill. But given the size of that rock, um, he wouldn't have been able to do it, and if he
Right.
moved it, it probably would have just rolled backwards and killed him.
I mean, yeah. Well, my favorite part of that was when he picks up the rock, and then the Gorn picks up a bigger rock.
So the gourd stick and rocks were bigger.
right.
I see. So the other thing that I found kind of comical is the Enterprise's crew reaction to an alien lizard man. It's really strong, considering that they've encountered extraterrestrial life before. Um,
I mean, yeah.
it can't be that weird.
Well, I've got a note about them watching the view screen, which is just that it's nice to see that the Metrons care about dynamic cinematography. It's
Yeah,
important. It's important that this viewing experience look interesting
yeah.
and good.
Security camera footage is not good enough for the for the Starship
It's just
Enterprise.
right. It was just funny because there's one. I was like, it was mostly one still frame, and then one moment it did an extreme push in, and I'm like, who's filming this? Like
The Metrons went to film school. What do you want?
they're of the art film school. They like a bit of more auteur filmmaking,
They went to USC, so
right?
Kirk gets caught in a rope trap set by the Gorn, which, oh my God.
My favorite part is okay. Wait, is that the bit where the Gorn take? No, yeah. The Gorn takes no, it's not. There's a moment later where the Gorn takes an absurd amount of time to get to Kirk and allows
No,
Kirk to fuck up.
That's
Is that
it.
getting him out of the trap? Yeah, he takes so long to get there. Gives Kirk 40 billion chances to escape. Like, what is happening?
Well, first of all, like I've never seen somebody so careless running than William Shatner. I mean, than Captain Kirk in this episode because it's probably is purposeful because it has to convincingly look like he fell for the most obvious trap
He
ever played.
watched him build it. That's my thing. Is he watched him build
Watched
it?
him build it. That's right, he did. And then
He
he's
stood on
he's
the cliff and
clearly
watched him build it.
and he's clearly looking away as he comes to the rope trap, which is the only way you would fall for it. And
I
also
I
considering the fact that it's almost a foot off the ground.
the trap is so stupid. I forgot about it. That's how dumb it was. Like, oh yeah, right. It's the obvious trap he was building.
The Gorn finally communicates with Kirk via the translation device after Kirk escapes and offers to put him out of his misery. Kirk accuses the Gorn of being butchers, but the alien defends their attack on Cestus 3, stating the outpost had been built in what the Gorns considered to be their territory. They viewed the Federation's presence in this part of space as an intrusion and a possible prelude to a full-scale invasion. And suddenly, the shoe was on the other foot, and
My
Kirk
my
understood.
my thing, okay, is they're like, oh, the Gorn were just defending themselves. I would not characterize slaughtering an entire outpost as defending themselves.
I said the same thing. My note actually says maybe, but it's not like the Federation came to Cestus 3 and wiped out a Gorn colony.
Right? It says that they still slaughtered an entire outpost. It feels like an entirely disproportionate reaction.
Oh, hugely. And that's the thing, because it's like my response, had I been in the same situation, would have been like, okay, I can understand why you felt that our presence may have been an incursion, but your response was really it'd be one thing if you showed up and were like, hey, we're the Gorn. This is our neighborhood. We'd appreciate it if y'all got the out.
Yeah, and then
And
the Federation was like, "Yeah, we understand that. We hear you. No, hours, hours now."
then that might have been I'm
I
not even
guess
going to say an appropriate
I guess
response, understandable response.
if the Federation went full colonial British, then I'd understand. Boom, history reference.
Yeah. If the Gorn showed up and they're like, "This is our territory," and they're like, "But you are simple lizards. We're going to make this place much better.
Yeah, it is ours now.
Starting with subjugating all of you and stripping you of all your natural resources.
Right, right.
But don't worry, we're going to build a school.
Then at that point, all right, okay, yeah, we're going to re-educate you. Have fun learning our version of English.
And don't worry, there will be so much Shakespeare, so much." Trying to stay ahead of the Gorn, Kirk discovers numerous valuable minerals and resources on the planet, not the asteroid, seemingly useless at this point.
Are you
He's
referring to the spray paint on the wall?
That's one of many, many valuable resources. He's inspired upon finding stalks of bamboo and raw chemicals that can be mixed into black powder.
No, that was it. That was the bit where I was like, "Oh my god, the Gorn are the slowest creature." As he takes 1,000 years to mix all these chemicals. Oh my god, he's taking so long. The Gorn is taking forever.
So Kirk constructs a makeshift weapon using chunks of diamond as ammunition. Kirk barely completes the assembly as the Gorn arrives and fires it, severely wounding the Gorn. Chemistry is useful, kids, except. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, so assuming that Kirk could even come up with the correct mixture, which, fun fact, it's not even close. Because the formula for gunpowder is actually really specific and there are other steps to it. It's not just mixing the dry powder.
I learned that from Mythbusters.
Yeah, and actually, I think Mythbusters did an episode about this.
Yep.
And
everything I know about gunpowder and explosions, I learned from Mythbusters.
But here's the other thing. So assuming that Kirk could actually even do this, he would have blown his face off.
He took so long to mix everything.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. So he essentially made a giant bamboo blunderbuss, if we're being real. And so my first problem with this scene is he breaks off a bamboo stalk, so it's theoretically open at both ends, and we don't see him seal the back end.
True. He just started dumping the shit into it. I
Yeah,
was like,
so
I don't
so
get what he's going for here.
he's dumping all this powder and stuff into it, and it should theoretically just be running out the back. But okay, let's assume that he somehow, some way found a way to plug the back of it. It's bamboo. It's not an iron barrel. It would have blown up in his face.
Right.
That was a
bunch
that
of
was
bamboo
that was a
shards
lot.
right in his face.
That was a lot of black powder if he had mixed it correctly. That's a very, very large amount, and his ammunition is mixed in with it. So,
Right.
oh, that would have been so bad. It just would have been terrible. First of all, the Gorn, to be fair, would have been dead too.
Yeah, it would have
I
been.
mean,
would have been mulch.
I mean, they basically both would have just been dead.
Right.
But
That would have been over there, and over there.
since this is sci-fi, it works. And as Kirk prepares to deal a death blow, he considers the Gorn's claims that the attack on Cestus 3 was only in self-defense and allows him to live. So I have a nitpick here too, which I meant to bring this up earlier, but I forgot about. So I'm a big Obsidian nerd, and the thing is, for those of you who don't know, Obsidian is volcanic glass. And as you can probably guess by the first word, in order to have obsidian, you need volcanoes.
That makes sense. I see
There's
the
no
connection.
I see no volcano anywhere.
I mean, maybe somewhere on this planet.
That's possible.
Say.
But I mean, I guess here's my thing. It's very obviously specifically obsidian, but just make him sharpen a rock. Like, it's real nitpicky, I'll admit, but
Yeah, fair enough. My brain, I've kind of hit the point in my life where I'm like, he's on a space planet.
that's
Logic
true.
went out the window.
That's true.
There's,
Hey, maybe
there's an alien lizard man. Logic has gone out the window.
Well, and hey, fair enough. So I will say this too. It's never expressly called obsidian. I am assuming, and it probably was a piece of obsidian that they had. Actually, I doubt it was
Probably.
real obsidian because that would have been really dangerous and stupid because obsidian is actually extremely and dangerously sharp. So
Oh,
I actually, now that I think about it, because considering William Shatner is holding it with his bare hands with no sort of grip or anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't real obsidian. Otherwise, he probably would have sliced his hand about 50 different times.
that makes sense
But
if it's that sharp.
maybe it's just a weird space rock that looks like obsidian.
It's just a weird space rock. Flying Jordan. Only Jordan will get this reference. Flying magic pirate ship.
No, I know what it is. It's unobtainium. Super
Oh, yeah,
rare.
exactly. Unobtainium. Yeah. Hey, apparently that's I learned somewhere that is a real definite, like, that's a real thing in like geology that they like a term in geology that they actually use. And like apparently they are like they find the notion that James Cameron actually used it in a movie to be hilarious.
Oh yeah. It's absolutely. So I actually do a whole rant in what episode is that? I think it's an episode of the Average Intelligence podcast where it was right before Avatar 2 came out, and I basically did an episode talking about how is Avatar actually a good movie or not. And I talk about there were so many better names that would have made sense for the mid-roll, and the one that I came up with was Prometheum.
Oh, that would be much better. Unobtainium was so bad.
It's so bad.
I am not a impartial person when it comes to that movie. I have particular trauma associations with it because this is a very weird aside. I'll do it quickly. I used to work in a movie theater. I've talked about it before, and I worked in the movie theater when that movie was at its peak, and it was like 4 months of every single showing sold out, and people were mean. Like they would come up, one person drove like an hour out of their way to watch this movie and screamed at me. Like, we tried, the line was so long that it was a fire hazard. We tried to put it outside and everyone like verbally abused us. It got to the point that like my manager was having like terror nightmares about it. Still to this day, that takes me back. I have a hard time enjoying that movie as a result. And also, it's not a very good movie.
No, my argument is and will remain the fact that it's just Dances with Wolves in space and not as good.
I don't disagree. Jordan always called it cotton candy, where it was like, it's sweet, it looks good,
But it dissolves really easily when you put it in
Yeah.
your mouth for too long.
and it's fluffy and meaningless, made of nothing.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
substance.
at the end of the day, yeah, because I'm just sitting here trying to defend it. But the thing is, it's just been done before. And to be fair, and I actually like the movie The Last Samurai, but even I admit The Last Samurai is just Dances with Wolves in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the deal with that first one was that surrounding identity and being tied to the 3D stuff. So and at the time, 3D was really big. So that's why that movie, when you watch it at home, you kind of notice its narrative flaws. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I thought
That's
the second
okay.
one was bad.
Oh, it was, because the second one's just Free Willy in space.
Yeah, it's 13 years too late. It's way too long, and there's an exceptionally long scene of them killing a space whale.
Star Trek 4 Star Trek 4 did it better.
I'm just saying, see, the concept of the space whale that's a Star Trek thing. That's coming one day.
In more ways than one, actually, because one of the Xindi species is aquatics and they're whale-like.
Oh,
They're like humanoid dolphins.
Star Trek likes the space whales. That's fair.
They do. Eat your heart out, George and Gracie. Trekkies get that reference. Anyway, suddenly, the Gorn disappears, and a Metron appears to Kirk, congratulating him on not only winning the battle, but showing the advanced trait of mercy for one's enemy. Kirk declines the Metron's offer to destroy the Gorn ship, leading the Metron to comment that
You are still half savage, but there is hope.
That line was weird to me, where it was like, yeah, we love the fact that you let it live. Do you want us to kill it anyway? We could do it. We could totally do it. We could kill it right now.
See, that's what we call an extra credit question.
Right? Right? It's a bonus question.
The Metron also says that the Federation should seek out the Metrons again in several thousand years' time.
Do the Metrons ever come back? Do they seek them out again?
I don't remember, but I will tell you what you should seek out. This thing.
Stop wasting your time on manually editing your videos. The secret AI tool will do the work for you. One of the best things about it is that it gives your video the potential to go viral. Visit this page, sign in, create a project by clicking on this button. Choose a video that you want to use. Click on the AI clip button. Wait for the magic. It is scanning through the video and looking for the parts that has the potential to go viral. Instead of editing the video by yourself, it does the work for you. It even generates headline and captions which fit your video. Another surprise is that they generate video description or social post for you to use. Once done, click Export to Post.
So those of you who are language nerds, you might be thinking, Metron. It's sticking out because it was for me too. Metrons were named after Metatron, God's
Voice of God.
Well, okay, so okay, I'll just read the whole note so you'll understand why I chuckled when you said that. So the Metrons were named after Metatron, God's other high-ranking soldier in Michael's army of angels, hence their cherubic spiritual presence. Or Alan Rickman, for those who saw Dogma.
I watched Supernatural, so he's Bogey from Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, fair enough. That too.
If you watch Supernatural.
So suddenly, Kirk finds himself back aboard the Enterprise. His injuries healed, and also, lace is gone from his boots, and the crew finds itself 500 parsecs from Metron space, the Gorn ship, nowhere in range.
So, like, I guess they must have shot all the spaceship stuff, even the end stuff, all at once on the soundstage, and then they obviously shot the planet stuff on location. Yeah, so it's why they switched back to his regular shoes. Unless like the shoe change isn't permanent, I'm guessing.
So this is really, really kind of funny. So they mentioned that the Enterprise is 500 parsecs away from where they were, and in terms of the entire galaxy, that's not nearly as far, because they make it sound like they're on the other end of the galaxy.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as far as it sounds.
I had a feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
The way he was go back there.
I don't remember the exact, because for some reason I must have gotten the wrong.
Really unfazed by it, so I was like, it can't be that far.
Yeah, I got the well, no, and they make it seem like it's very far, but the thing of it is, the example that I read was that if the galaxy were condensed to like California to New York,
yeah,
500.
Oh, okay.
They make 500 parsecs seem like California to New York when it's really more like Los Angeles to I forget what they said, but another place in California.
Oh, I know. So in state, basically.
In state, yeah. So
Oh, gotcha.
it's not quite as far as they make it seem to be.
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, Kirk seemed really unfazed. He was like, "All right." He didn't seem all that distressed by it, which indicated it couldn't have been a terribly long distance.
Which
Like,
actually,
let's go retrieve the
I've got to
corpses.
I've got to look this up because it's bothering me because I feel like I'm not getting that right. Okay, so Sulu said they were, quote, clear across the galaxy 500 parsecs from where they were. The galaxy is almost 40,000 parsecs across. So they were moved about 1/80th of the way across the galaxy. That would be the same as saying that when traveling from Los Angeles to New York City, Pomona is clear across the country.
I don't know where Pomona is. I guess
It's in
California.
California. Yeah,
So, how far is that from Los Angeles?
let's find out.
Also, keeping in mind, I use the metric system. I'm also I'm better in terms of time. You tell me how far away it is in terms of time.
Okay, I can do that. That's probably so Los Angeles.
So I feel like it's about 40 minutes away from Los Angeles. I'm like, all right, that's not that far. I can equate that to.
It's 57 minutes away.
Oh, so it's about an hour. Okay, so basically, it's from where I live to Vancouver.
Well, okay, it's worse than that though.
It's not that far.
So, but that's because of traffic. It's 29 miles away. Los Angeles to Pomona is 29 miles.
So it's an hour with traffic. Okay, so without traffic. Okay, yeah, that's not that far. But basically, yeah, it sounds like it's from where I live in Abbotsford to Vancouver, which is not far. That's about if you hit traffic, you can do it in just under an hour.
So that's like 70 kilometers, eh?
Yeah. I'm bad. Even when it's in kilometers, like if you said to me it's 100 kilometers away, I'd be like, I don't.
So that it was very funny when I went to Paris on a I went to more than Paris, but when I went to France on a school trip, obviously the signs are in kilometers, not miles per hour. So I forget the conversion, but it was something like it's marked 70, and here in the United States, 70 miles per hour is pretty fast. That's what you see on like the highway. So all these American kids are seeing like 70, and some of us had to be like, that's like 40 miles an hour, 40, 45 miles an hour. Just stop freaking out. They're not going that fast.
We get lucky because our speedometers have miles on them. So if I go to the States, I have miles on my speedometer.
See, a lot of our cars have kilometer per hour as well.
Yeah, but it's definitely, you really have to think about it when you're down there.
Well, see, that's why I like my car has a full digital display and I can actually change it. So like if I were to drive to Canada, I can actually change it to kilometers per hour, which is real nifty.
It's enough of a conversion where you're like, yeah, exactly. 40 miles an hour and 40 kilometers an hour are very
different speeds. Well, so funny though, when I did drive to Canada, when I was vacationing in Michigan, and we were like, I mean, we're right there. Might as well go to Canada, eat at Tim Hortons, go to a mall, that kind of thing.
Might as well.
But I had to keep reminding myself. I was like, okay, don't be that dumb American that starts driving when it's marked 40 kilometers per hour. Don't drive 40 miles per hour. You'll get pulled over by the Mounties.
Right, Americans hear 100 kilometers an hour and their eyes go wide. It's fast, but it's not as fast as you're probably thinking.
So this episode has a lot of firsts. This is the first episode to establish that the Enterprise's cruising speed was warp 6. It was the first episode to be directed by Joseph Pevney. So Pevney was actually hired by Gene Coon because he had a reputation of filming fast.
I mean, this episode needed that.
It did. It's also the first episode to establish the existence of the Federation. The word was used in the Corbomite maneuver, but was referring to the First Federation. But this episode refers to the Federation as the United Federation of Planets, which will be fully named later in the episode A Taste of Armageddon, which is coming up. It's not next, but it's coming.
Interesting.
It is also the first episode to make reference to Starfleet. When Kirk makes an entry in the recorder given him to the Metrons, he asks, quote, whoever finds it, please get it to Starfleet. It was also the first episode to be broadcast in color by the BBC.
Huh.
First shown in the UK in November of 1969. And it is also the first episode to establish that transporters cannot beam through deflector shields.
I mean, yeah, obviously to create drama, but hey, it's
but that at least makes sense, though.
Oh, for sure, it does make sense, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of the problems with the episode would be solved pretty quickly if they could just beam up whenever you wanted.
Well, yeah, but it actually makes sense that you wouldn't be able to beam aboard a ship that has its, shields up.
Fair enough.
That does make sense. Well, I mean, because here's the thing: boarding would be far too easy then.
For sure. I mean, no, it makes absolute sense. You want it's like the space equivalent of the gangplank. If you don't want people rolling up and laying down the gangplank whenever they want.
Precisely. Except the space Vikings would find a way around it because that's what they do.
Because they're space Vikings, naturally.
It's what they do. They just jump out of their spaceship shirtless and naked.
Right? They're not wearing a space helmet. They don't need it. They're space Vikings.
They're berserkers.
Right? Exactly.
Berserker.
Dun 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 berserker.
Except they're in space,
right.
so it's there. So
That's
it's
right. I get that reference.
Olaf metal.
No one can hear you metal. In space, no one can hear you metal. So I think I'm going to ask you, do the Gorn come back?
Kinda. Well, yes, but not for a while.
Not interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. I was expecting you to say no.
So it was actually my next note. So despite the aliens' impressive debut and the cultural popularity of the image, no Gorn was ever seen again in a mainstream Star Trek production until In a Mirror Darkly Part 2 from Star Trek Enterprise almost 40 years later.
So an actual Gorn shows up in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it an updated version or is it like original costume and everything?
It's an updated version.
Oh, lame.
Because I'll be honest, I would have really liked for them to have at least a redone version of the original costume.
So is the design completely new?
I mean, in a way, yes. They keep the head's basic shape, if I remember correctly.
But it's still a stupid looking, like...
Yeah, but it's a CG
Power Rangers.
character.
It's a CG character. Okay. So the mouths move. Is what you're saying.
I think I can't remember. I do remember the Gorn showing up and I'm being like,
because that was my next thought. My next question was: these feel like the kind of I didn't write this down as a note, but these feel like the kind of characters you bring back in like Strange New Worlds or like a new movie. And it's like they're updated and they're CGI, and this is the badass versions of the stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
see, I believe
are the kind of character that come back like that.
I'm pretty sure that we'll see a Gorn in Strange New Worlds.
It wouldn't surprise me.
They're kind of rehashing a lot of those old classic Trek episodes, and I don't have to love it, but I get it. I get why they're doing it.
For sure.
My other note, though, is in one of the more fun episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Trials and Tribulations. Captain Sisko admits to Jadzia Dax that he would love to meet Kirk and ask him about, quote, fighting the Gorn on Cestus 3. But that's not why we're here, old man.
Also, technically, Kirk didn't fight the Gorn on Cestus 3. He fought it on a random planet in space. I'm just saying. Technically, he did fight Gorn on Cestus 3.
Okay, but here's the thing. Gorn could be singular or plural, so...
That's just what I'm saying. The fist fight was not on Cestus. I don't want to be that guy, but if I'm going to be that guy...
No, but here's the thing, though. That feels like something, because there's been... I'm trying to think of an example, but of course, I can't. But there's several examples of battles throughout history where it's like the battle of such and such, where the battle actually didn't take place at such and such place.
True.
It was a nearby place.
How many years after that is Deep Space Nine in universe? Like 10, 15 years?
Oh no, it's okay, I'm gonna have to do math here. I don't know, but it can't be that long because Kang, Koloth, and okay, hang on. Well, we'll look that up too. Trials and
my point is more just after a certain amount of retellings, the fight may have gone from random planet to Cestus 3 just out of simplicity. He got tired of differentiating when he was telling the story. It's like it all happened on the same place.
Right, that's what I'm saying is because the planet technically didn't exist. It was created by the Metrons. So if there was a battle there, they probably would still refer to it as the Battle of Cestus 3 because that's where it started.
True. It's all one extended battle because the battle never ended because he chased the Gorn and then they found the Gorn. So the battle technically never ended if you really want to get pedantic.
So Star Trek Deep Space Nine takes place between the years 2369 and 2375.
What year did we say at the top of the episode this was?
We are in the year 2267.
Oh, wow. So it is
about 100 years or so.
Then, yeah, by that point, the story's been retold and told a number of times.
Wow, Klingons live for a long time. Well, because it's established there are characters that are in Star Trek the original series that show up again, Kang and Koloth being two of them,
Yeah.
that show up in Deep Space Nine. Now, granted, they are old men, but I mean, they're well over 100 because they're clearly adults in command
Yeah.
positions in Star Trek the original series. So, wow, Klingons live a while.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they're
Okay.
aliens.
I have a bone to pick with Star Trek Picard then.
Yeah, but Star Trek Picard is supposedly bad.
Well, no, here's the thing. Worf has visibly white hair in that episode, except that Worf is certainly not 100 years old. And Kang, I think only one of those three characters actually has white or gray hair when they appear in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So
Well, then the obvious answer is one of them is doing a dye job.
two of them would be doing a dye job.
Two of them are doing a dye job. It's the only answer. They're dyeing their hair. Worf doesn't care. Worf is like, I'm a silver fox.
Now I'm just imagining
I'm a
Gowron
silver
doing
Klingon fox.
No, now I'm just seeing Gowron do an ad for Just for Men. Bring honor to your house.
See, I've been tempted by watching Picard a few times, but it's the fact that I think I've mentioned this before. The fact that they curse puts me off of it. Especially for Picard, like to me, Steep's Next Generation and the original Star Trek is so milk toast and safe. Like I just don't like that they curse. Again, as much as I have campaigned for rude Star Trek from Quentin Tarantino, he's the only guy who I will allow it from.
We kind of got that from the Orville, but I guess it's not rude; it's cruder.
It's a little bit crude, but they don't like straight up. Well, they do, I guess, in the third season, but it's Picard. I don't know. It off puts me when that version of the universe curses.
Just picture like number one. I'm given to understand that we're allowed one F-bomb per series. Should I use it now?
Yes, Captain, you may.
And then data malfunctions just goes.
Dang it!
There you go. And then the beeps come back. Oh, live long and suck it.
What if I told you that Commander Worf's head looked like a fanny?
You can all suck my ridges.
I love Patrick Stewart.
Commander Worf's head looks like a fanny.
As much as I'm enjoying the original series, I'm so excited to get to Next Generation. I love Patrick Stewart.
Oh, we're gonna be a minute. I realize now the horrible undertaking. I feel like this is what some of like the crew members felt like when they first got on the Enterprise. They're like, "Yeah, 5 years in space," and then the first red shirt bit it, and they're like, "Oh no,
oh no, 5 years in space
with this guy telling us what to do."
Our 5-year mission to watch all of Star Trek in as succinct fashion as possible.
Oof. Well, listen, if you want us to do this in 5 years, we're gonna need your help.
That's true. You gotta pay us.
Yeah, we're gonna need to be able to do this more than once or twice a week. We're gonna really need your help on this one. But you can do so by patronizing our sponsors that we introduce you to in this and all of our episodes.
Or subscribe so we get popular enough that we can start a Patreon.
We have finally raised our red shirt casualty count to 3.
Hit that counter.
Oh, we already did.
Oh, we did. Well, hit it earlier when you already did it previously.
Rewind and go back.
Watch
it again. Watch it a few times. Watch it. And then go back and do Android's Dream of Killing Red Shirts, where we do it twice.
Now, here's the hope. I mean, you would know. Are we going to see a steady incline of red shirts?
I have a feeling. I think we're going to start seeing that.
At least one an episode. Like I think I will be satiated if I get at least one. But they really, man. No, for however much was it the last one? The last one was where they got all emotional about the guys dying, right? For however emotional they got, I guess because they weren't red shirts, you're allocated emotional bandwidth to feel sad for the non-red shirts. But the red shirts, you have to compartmentalize and never talk about them again.
Now I'm just imagining they're like, but he wasn't wearing red.
Oh, he was wearing red. I'm allowed to feel sad about this one.
He was wearing gold. Why?
I'm just picturing Kirk being like, what shirt was he wearing?
Red, sir. Oh.
Don't care. It's
Oh.
cool.
We have more
Don't
of
bother
those.
telling me his name. Don't bother telling me his name.
Well, like I said, that was Arena. Hopefully you had as much fun as we did. And if we didn't,
I had a great deal of fun.
lighten up a little. Like, come
I mean,
on,
how
this
could you
was fun.
not? How could you not have fun with this episode?
I mean, maybe somebody should just come up to you and go,
I will say it's one of those episodes that makes me go, man, I regret not getting into this show earlier in my life because, man, I am just enjoying the hell out of this. Let me tell you.
well, join us next week when we look at the episode. Tomorrow is yesterday. Justin, as per usual, would you like to take a stab at what this episode is about?
It's about time travel.
Care
They
to
go back in
try
time.
care to try to be more specific?
Oh, I mean, okay. I'm gonna be straight up. I would have guessed it was time travel regardless. I did get a brief glimpse at the description, but it was very vague. So I'm gonna guess that they go through a wormhole in space by accident. Like they're going warp factor 7, and they accidentally go through a wormhole in space, and they wind up in pirate times.
No.
No.
So yeah, you should have stuck with your original and said, nope, I'm gonna stay vague. So I want to be right.
I mean, to be fair, all it said was they go back in time, which I would have guessed. I would have gone free throw. It's about time travel. They're going back in time.
Yes.
It's just I don't know how yet. I don't know how.
I don't even remember how, but yeah, I mean, it probably is a wormhole or something to that nature.
I'm excited to go back in time. Time travel episodes are always fun.
They
They're
are
always fun.
It's always fun when a show set in the future goes back to the current time, like when it's set.
Right?
That's always fun. That's
Is
always
this
a great
the one?
deal of
Wait,
fun.
is this the one I've referenced it before? Is this the one where Abraham Lincoln says an unfortunate racism? This is
No,
not
because
the one.
that's actually not time travel.
Really?
Yeah, because
That's not time travel.
That's not really Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, like,
okay.
obviously it's not, but I mean, even in universe, it's not really Abraham Lincoln.
They didn't pick up Abraham Lincoln from the past and bring him to the Star Trek future.
They did
Oh,
not.
fascinating.
Although he believes they did, that Abraham Lincoln imposter. But
We'll get there. We'll get to that episode.
That's a fun little episode. That's fun.
I will say, looking to the future, I was not expecting time travel to come back.
Oh yeah, it comes back multiple times, which is why Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home is quite humorous because they're talking about theoretical time travel, and I'm like, you've done this like 4 times already. You know 4 different ways to travel back in time. Why are you speculating as to whether or not this will work? You've literally done it before.
I'm excited though. As soon as I saw it had to do with time, as soon as I hear it has to do with time travel, I'm excited. But that's next week.
Yes, that is next week, where once again we will look at the episode. Tomorrow is yesterday. But until then, watch long and prosper.
And subscribe. And comment and like.
Yeah, comments. Because when you guys comment, it's more fun. So watch, comment, subscribe long, and prosper.
And prosper. Yeah, that's my memory of that guy. Is like I just remember his talking head parts were being like, everyone thinks that this is a character. It's not a character. I'm really this crazy.
My note was, why does Christopher get an officer's uniform?
He's in a spaceship, right? In space, speaking to a future man from the future. And his line is, a man with slightly pointier ears than him.